All right, Krystal, what's on your radar?
Well, I didn't really want to do this, but he left me no choice. Mayor Pete just won't stop with the misleading, condescending, destructive talking points on free college, so here we go. First, it is worth noting that for a guy who talks all about how he's a uniter and that we're all fighting too much, blah, 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 he sure loves to pick a fight. Remember when he decided for no discernible reason to beat up on Beto? Then, of course, he went all in on the health insurance industry talking points on Medicare for all. Have to admit, that was somewhat successful since Elizabeth Warren almost immediately caved, releasing a transition plan that is basically Pete's plan. But now he's got another progressive policy goal in his sights: free college. So he started by releasing one of his lame ads in which he said he wouldn't fund the college of children of millionaires and billionaires. Of course, he fails to mention that he also won't fund the college of the middle class. In Pete's plan, free tuition ends when your family hits $100,000 in income. So basically, if mom and dad are making as much or more than 2 teachers, you're done. But even more galling than the ad was his response to an NBC reporter when asked to explain his opposition to free college for all.
And I'm also concerned about a narrative emerging that ignores the fact that not everybody goes to college. This is not the same thing as K through 12. This is not the same thing as Social Security, because college is not for everybody. Now, I want everybody who wants to go to college to have the chance. I want to make sure cost is never a barrier. But where I come from, 3 out of 4 people don't have a college degree. And if the message we're sending to them is that you need a college degree in order to get by in life, in order to prosper, in order to succeed, we're leaving most Americans out.
Let's be clear. This is a slimy, disingenuous argument. First of all, let's talk about his folksy. Where I come from, 3 out of 4 people don't have a college degree. Yeah, you know what else? Where you come from, 79% of students who decide not to go to college do so because of financial constraints. Or at least that was the case in nearby Illinois, according to a survey of low-income high school seniors and their college counselors. Second of all, he misleadingly implies that Sanders and Warren's free college plans only apply to fancy 4-year degrees. They don't. They would also cover community college and trade school. And this is the part that is so extra galling. Pete's plan does not cover trade school. So Mr. trying to pretend like he's down with his blue-collar brothers and sisters isn't going to help you one bit if you decide you want to enter the trades. And also, in terms of leaving most Americans out, Pete doesn't come anywhere close to the federal jobs guarantee or aggressive pro-union policies of Sanders and Warren that emphatically bring every American in. But there's a whole insinuation here that absolutely infuriates me. It's there when Pete says college is not for everybody. Now here's a guy raised with every privilege and advantage, going to private schools in wealthy enclaves, parents, professors at Notre Dame. College was always for a kid like Peter. He and the other special flowers who get tracked onto the smart kid path, which so often just happens to coincide with being white and being affluent. People like Peter get put on the worthy of being treated like a human being track. College was always for Peter. And not just any college, of course, Harvard, Rhodes Scholar, McKinsey. Learning about neighborhood and school segregation on the fly as a young mayor when such things had apparently never occurred to you. I guess those prep schools don't teach you everything. I know that not everyone wants to go to college. That's absolutely fine. But what people like Mayor Pete, who say that it's not for everybody, really mean is that working class people and blue collar people are too dumb for college. They don't belong. And that attitude absolutely disgusts me. But that's the natural conclusion when you buy into the BS fairy tale of the American meritocracy, where your only goal is to make sure every little boy and girl has the ability to ascend to their rightful rung on the meritocracy ladder. That if you're a billionaire, you're somehow more worthy of a human being than if you're struggling paycheck to paycheck. Pete has, of course, decided that he belongs at the top of that meritocracy ladder, a benevolent technocrat to analyze the country like the consultant mercenary he was trained as. But of course, those upper heights aren't for everybody. Bernie Sanders' team and AOC appear to have been as outraged as I am. AOC called Pete's ad bad faith. Sanders senior advisor Jeff Weaver went even further. He said the truth of the matter is that the type of the attitude that Mayor Pete Buttigieg is exhibiting here is in fact elitist in itself. Pete's campaign manager Liz Smith responded, but honestly, it was just more of the same BS, so let's skip it lest my head explode. There's another really, really important principle here, though, too, which is that for social programs to work, And to avoid creating even more of a class divide than we already have in this country, they have to be universal. First of all, it's dehumanizing and degrading to constantly prove your poverty to the federal government. But second of all, there's a reason that Social Security is insanely popular and welfare was destroyed. It's because everyone has buy-in to Social Security. Everyone, with very few exceptions, is included. The moment that you means test something, you kill it. It becomes for those people. Right-wingers and neoliberal corporate shells like Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg cut it to pieces because the fact that it benefits poor people or working-class people alone means that it benefits unworthy people. Because if they were worthy, then according to the myth of American meritocracy, that would mean they would be making more money. And when you're talking about a good like college, universality is even more important. Just think about it in the public school context. What impact would it have on our schools if they were only free to those making less than 100K? First, you'd have complete class division, as no one who had to pay for public school would actually go to public school. Then, once it was only poor and middle class kids at the schools, they'd be starved to death even more than they already are. Just look at the neglect of schools in poor neighborhoods, the unsafe facilities, the 30-year-old books, the stuff to the gills classrooms. That would be every school in America. And that's exactly what would happen if you made a public college system that was only for the poor and middle class, or a healthcare system that way for that matter. It would be ghettoized, starved, demonized, racialized, and the degrees coming out of it would end up being yet another flashing sign that you were born into the American underclass. That is why free college for all must be for all. Surely Pete and his degrees and his languages and his McKinsey training could figure that out. But of course, his own self-concept as rightful ruling class elite depends on him not understanding it. Turns out there's plenty they don't teach you at Harvard. Sagar, few things piss me off more than this condescending attitude towards the working class.
Yeah, I think it is extraordinarily condescending, and it's funny because you pointed out that his own plan doesn't even cover trade school, and that would be the obvious response, right?
Obviously.
It would be like, okay, well, not free college because not everybody has to go to college, but I'm going to make sure that everybody can continue to go to, if you want to go into the trades or community college or you want your GED program, like all these types of things, then we're going to fully fund that. I mean, that's not an unreasonable position, but yeah, it's like. To level this attack. Also, I just think one thing that drives me crazy is the idea that $100,000 is a lot of money for families. That's not a lot. I mean, try and go look, we live in an urban, suburban country at this point. Go to Manhattan or San Francisco or Chicago or Dallas, and any of these places, make $100,000. Try and pay your mortgage and then pay full freight for your kid to go to college. It's not going to happen. I mean, in-state tuition for some of these states is in the $20,000 range per year? I mean, that's a lot of money in your after-tax income. That's an outrageous sum on top of all of the other costs of life, which have gone up and up and up. We're talking about healthcare costs, mortgage costs. I mean, your everyday cost of being alive has gone up while your wages are relatively stagnant. Capping it at $100,000, if you're going to accept this idea, is laughable, and it's actually more of a political signal to the elite, so to speak, that it's like, no, we care, but we don't actually want to do anything about it.
Right, we care, but not enough to actually fundamentally transform anything. Don't worry. I mean, this was the Joe Biden message, right? Don't worry, we're not going to fundamentally transform anything. We're going to throw him some bones, sure, to keep the pitchforks away.
It's about co-opting
but that's
rhetoric.
It is about co-opting rhetoric. I mean, that's the thing that's so disgusting to me, too, about this guy is he started the race trying to find his way in this progressive lane. That was closed off to him. So now he's listen to his donors. He has more billionaire donors than anyone, right? You can't ignore the influence of Wall Street and the donor class on anything that he says. It is custom made for them. And so now he's fit himself into this media donor class centrist lane to try to be the young rival to Joe Biden. And it's all just completely transparent what he's trying to do. But yeah, the essential thing here is the moment you means test something, you turn it into welfare and it gets destroyed. Social programs, public goods have to be open to everyone for them to succeed, and it makes sense. And if you don't have it that way, it just exacerbates the class divide that we already have in this country. I saw this thing, I shared it with you. One of Uber's office locations, they had separate bathrooms, not for male, female, but for the employees, the office workers, the white-collar workers of Uber, and for the unwashed drivers. Right? I mean, could you have more blatant class bias than that? But that attitude is so pervasive in this country, and it so rarely gets called out. Just disgusts me.
Yeah, agreed.
Looking forward to Sagar's Radar. That's next.